Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Billy Luke. I'm here today to share the programs of criminal case analysis pertaining to the case of Daniel Dinganyai, based as Aman Bol Manuer. So I'm here to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, so you can come and join me on this program so that we can be able to analyze the criminal cases between the two couples. So if you would like to join me in the studio, please do not hesitate to click the link out there and join me. Kuyin program kana buglo tong monjang na iran ko be lo join yin lao baben lui share. Kuyin ku bale we ka cheman bogen cheer chukbe kwen tong English badala bu kwen tong monjang. Yen ko monjang dai ya nya bagen join ko bug jam ke the 1 month dinganyai ku jating de Cholaman Bol Manuer ke den chatting ya viral on Facebook ku kane we be jamage nganong yich ku nganong with so ene ke we baben chara go we kan so na no ra no interest blue join in law baben ku baben lu chara go ba kenen ke we bale we
Agar wonda ngakiya ping agar marol undi ni bai kira Amerika rumbe wanda ngabeno undi kwe walyam to yiro kuru yuru bela ko bakambi agar wonda ngakiya ping agar marol undi ni bai kira Amerika rumbe wanda ngabeno undi kwe walyam to yiro kuru yuru bela ko bakambi Wondai, agara yenya kolota, ulele bagalo ilangi puja. Wondai jengi, tajali yuki yuko, umbega ni arje puloi, abonu boy. Agar madonga tegi jadi. Adiega bena bun manu kundo, bun manu nyana agara yake, pira ganyal unjola gari rapi. Ogai charo bai nali urumbe kaba yunu bache kami ogai ngo takulwele bai bukya loiria kayiwo luibya kayiwo kai kijwer kayiwo bugir rumbeng da nyar nonglau yunu baban pera gangya unjala gari raping dui makuya bukya toy nagar toy nangi malbaya jeng toy nyagar bayu Nangre kupi ukulai kudin parnya naran chimu ayina beja dar doindan ye kucheng rialpo agara che dong chen wa ke wo got kangwe ogai yoy tumi tidong yum kumo garo ran we kuyi ran ke ye chwe agara nyere ke ye ran ban wa china ter ke ko we go bana kumalwan koranya Adi koro kubada wabiai kuyerule tungia wa mithi jamto kumoi choguban
criminal case analysis Daniel Dinganyai based as Aman Bol Manuer. We are going to analyze the criminal case between two couples. So I'm inviting each one of you to join me
Agar wonda ngakiya ping agar marol undi ni bai jira Amerika rumbe wanda ngabeno undi kwe walyam to yiro yuru bela ko bakambi agar wonda ngakiya ping agar marol undi ni bai jira Amerika rumbe wanda ngabeno undi kwe walyam to yiro yuru bela ko bakambi wondai agara yenya kolota ulele barkalo ilangi buja wonda jetigi bajal yiki go rumbe ga mi arje puloi akolu boy agar madong tegi jadi atege bana gun manu kondo kumanu nyana gare yake pira gangyal unchola gare ropi Ogai choro bai nali rumbe kaba yinu bache kami Ogai ngoba kulwele bai bukya loiria loiwo luibya kaiwo kai kijwer kaiwo bugir rumbeng da nyar manglaw yinu baban pira gangyal unchola gare ropi Makuya buja toy na nagar toy na ngi mal baya jeng toy nyagar koy mu dang rei ku piu kulai ku din pa nya laran chimoy yina be ja dar toy dan ye ku jeng rial ko agara che dong chen wa ki wo ko kangwel o ga yo chimi ti dong yum ku mo garo ran we guri ran ki ye chwe agara nyirer ke yera na ban wajina terke go urelu bana kumalwal boranyar madin boro kubada mabiay uyarul tungya wa midjang to kumoy to ban wan cholje dui
yen wacha kale jo kai dai especially we ko mon jang ji gwer ke wi ban jam tin michila de wan ma chol ding nyai ku jela nyan kaida chol aman bol ma queer bol manuer I guess sorry ya keden ci garo jar ma kam ke wi bio jam tin ka yog we wo ci da nin gi ban ko lo ret fi Facebook. So kaban jam din basically is about that case unte ci ben nyal kam den yidi nganyai ku jela sister man bol manuer ke ganong michila ayok most of you ka we ko ko dai fi live video kana ayok ngi ran chol di nganyai is one of the famous artists in South Sudan. So ayok ran maruf ran chak diedun te ko word ka chang jeng ku jela chang dan te the families, you know, in quite thin. So each and every one of you are young dinganyai. So chap loyal katir ran juk bingi japiat ke ting de. But then through yen dinganyai na chok ting de na chok ni jop nyan kai dan chola man bol manuel. Yeah. So the chicken ngi yen mon jang dai ka yok dinganyai ran ke daret ku diet ke ha yok chiwe inspired it. So some of you might have learned a lot from the song. Chak or kid. Wa choklo entertainer it. Runbit minin ben Louis music concert fa na editing. So kaban jam tine kole. En me ke then one chen ting de he ting de chen in la ma kamis. Wa dinganya ga yoku kika ke chake ting seen yesterday wala ni wan tilo kero. Ku drama did it fi Facebook. Ikenen wi boken ben jamit. Chan book ting ngoye dinganya elwel ko ngelwel nyan kai chola man man bol manuer lui le ma so ke jamde ran chi de dinga nyai panan dinga nyai lui le ku le yin gala man bol manuer gala yin e jangul bro nok pe jangul le yin bi mit ke bi kan nok bro nok kwa bi mit ke bi kan nok ku yin dinga nyai lui le yin tengde ke nyan kai da chola man bol manuer tengde ne ria kam den ge yin runon chilo chol 2018 ni chi tengde ne cheria kam den so as a result one chi tengde ne cheria ki ye lui le yin dinga nyai ai ye lui ku le yin etingde e jam gule yen bro nok ku tingde e jam gule yen bi mit bi kan nok ya dinga nya ye kwen jamde gule yen etik ci ben yek musuliya mi duwan bi jor baay ke mi tok ku jela mo wew ya ye wew ben ka mu to na wan tik la re baay ka mit ka yo ka tik ke mi ye ke la wan ke nyan ke ne den so nyan ke ne den ene donga mi baay wen ye lule yen mi ci ke chambay despite the fact that ye lule yen nyoy wew lakin ding ye ni ting den ken a chi mi ci ke la lo cham mi ke chak nok nok bay ku wew ye ke jot ku ke la wew ke la cham somewhere then maybe below out bela cham outside wala bela degmo or whatever that he claim ci ti ye dinga nya elwe tin nke ke ye kuin kan so wa ken ke ridon wa chen mi chen ke ben nyok duk chen ku jon mi de chin ayena re ba ke mitke yene di nganya na ra re ba ke mitke so ne lo ne saba wa chen mit chen ke nya tin ne chin kan ku tie ke goria 2018 ke re ke tie na di nganya to ke mitke ku ken mit ke nya tin ne chin ayo le tik na cha yen wew cha jor bai ku ka yen wew cha yen be je dun ben mit ben ke gala cham ku yen chi mi chi ke le mi cha le chok no ku yen ti ke la jal ku le yen ti ke la la bi ku ke wew ye ke la deg mo ku ti ke ye ke mu saki kwa ka ke wel ke le ran chol di nganya ke ga chi ke wel ki and I'm not trying to judge her the chi di nganya e wel ki e di nganya ne jam ye so based on the testimonies ke yen panan di nganya e wel ke en ke chin wel bo ke lo verify until we conduct further investigation ku buk jo be lo analyze whether e ke yit ka wel ke wala e ke wel so kenen ke lo claim kan na jela ben jam ni nyan kai chola man bol manue aye queen kulele yen mun de na che chol police aje mach ache lo direct into the prison ku yen wan chi yen ler tijini ache dui ache la dom ku tat ku da ko le biar yan bitin ko ni kene ke ye queen wan chen ler tijini kan ku kude according to her claim aye lo le yen ko je de wele ne lo claim lo le yen chen do ngam bai wan after wan chi ting den jeria kam den so aye lo le that nu ke ci be duk be ku yen monde ati len mi kay ku le yen mi da korki yen ye wi bi re ka mi ke bu ngor ko la gidam e ka mi ke so kana ye lo claim yen and my sister a man bol manuel so we by we jing dai e kene ne yo ko bu jo lo analyze but I yo ka ngor ke pending case ke case kene ne wi bu jo ka ni bu ja ka yo ko ne cha viral on social media we kana ko jam da wo ye ban ke taw yeah, and I'm doing this live video. Okay, we are neutral. I want to be impartial in this case. Shall we take side, but we can analyze where to problem. We call it below. Kwa kishiki yedi nganya elwel. Ayelwel yen. I would be thinking below protect a chance you don't know. The con been suicide been committed for whatever reason. When they believe no cover no. We yen di nganya ayelwel yen anjiriyo. Yelwel thinking I would be missing the no cover no. So based on my own analysis, yeah, aye dinga nyang le dinga nya ye le yen shi fok ga tingde they are no longer together ku tingde aye claim nu na de ye na wi bitaw mi kai baren dinga nya ye ku dinga nya ye ku chan bien yeg mit na yinen mit bila rege ke mit ka ke alama mi tingde chin alama manden chin chanen manden a chi mi chi ke la yen cham mi dai e chok ke la no ku tik e we ye ke la num ku le ke cham yen ku chi mi chi ko cham that isn't ke ye dinga nya ye kwen kan na wan chi dinga nya chi tik chi mi se ke la dong ni bai ke ti ga ngor ko bion mit you know ti ga ngor ko bion mit ke le ye nan chi ta ko mit ki ku ye na ye dinga nya ye lu la ku le yen ti ko bro no ku le na ne god before ke jero no ke la da mit ka no wa ye no I can to give my personal analysis about it ke ba nyod we gnu if that is the case ke ye dinga nya ye queen wa ko e pya nu ba ping relative ken so ka ye ka won rwai nyan tin je la ko rwai yen ran chi de dinga nya a pya bu ka ping to ko ban in order for us to actually cross examine the fact check mlubu ga lo ye ngan nang len lwel ko ngan lu lai kam den ya man bol manuer ke yen dinga nya because each one of them is trying to defend or his own testimony. Here. But in criminal justice, you don't need to jump to that conclusion. But until you have to verify, so we balwe ka analysis and we bulo mis bale jam dran chi dinga nyai kujila yena manbol. So ke ye dinga nyai lwel aye le yen tinkin cha wi be yen miti because miti e chokek la nok kuti ke we ye kek la deg mo ke ye dinga nya el wil kan they both admit that no ke I think they chi right think they chi doc already 2018 achin da already ten ki man chen new the document because until on his profile kwa cha team that no the both paper de cha team chi kwa ki court chi ga jere chi notarized un chi certified so akane chu confirm ade ki yin the two couple ka ke I think they chi doc. So if that is the case, we found and die, then kuja ku yen ting, ku yeti ku jam ku le yen ka ko bro nok. A ko mi bi kan nok. Ko mi bi kan nok. Ku ka ko bro nok esa. Ke kene ye nyu odian. Ran chi di nganya ele bi nang hak. Bi mi ke bi ke protect. A chan chi ka bi nok. Ala ba ye ge ni kan ten yi jadil. Ibnu di chi nyan di chen le tong de dil. Ku le ka ko bi mi bi kan nok. Ku ka ko bro nok ye. Kenyan kai kene ala bu le no it's not a good idea. So ke yen atu a little bit keep away from a little bit keep away from me. Ukapiat command be taken into police custody. Chana is suicidal. Era anu suicidal kapiat below report to the police. Like in being report to police station. Report to the police. I don't know any dinganya any children bully. Wale ye quite a family then any children bully. A sharp jabbing. If that is the case of by we share report to police in yan kaida and chala man bull. I share the report that I can get that in. There's no need why it should be stripped naked. Chinke in doka lep. Ekena ya condemn. Na chi police officers. Kuchiki kana lo deal. Chik nyan kaya man bol manuel kuchik that. Ukachik doka lep. Kekene ke mumuwa ba. After bikale rekin bera hotel tijini bulu confined in a solitary confinement whereby ben yukade be in yukade any rehabilitation. Ako biare hap karen. Achana ko bulu rehab. Can bulu cancel. Chirot binok. Ku chibide premeditation. Criminal premeditation. Ben mit ben kek nok. Ku bro nok. So kene. Da yuk. Kek un konyu weke. Kweke un bin mit ke. Bike protect. otherwise ni chien lo ya bai wo mon jang dai ka yo ke chit wan ke midwan ke ting de duo wan ke nok juba kala biro lo maybe that is the same thing maybe yene ben ranam chit man ni taw ne ten ke ran taw juba yene ting di nga nyai ku taw juba wan ke chit ke wan chi mi ke chi mon dor chen mi ke karanden chen ke dam tem gorot ka yo kala biro lo so according to criminal justice you can think strategically or you can premeditate something might happen likely in the similar scenario one chiri chiro lo fani people ala biro lo fit because kai the land ke chingek lo ke tek da bi lo ba lo de chiri chingek en lo tin wane so nyan kai chola man kan yen kala batin man according to criminal justice reading the mindset of that victim yen she could be suffering from psychological trauma when the talk again I'm not trying to and psychiatric yet but I'm trying to judge from the criminal perspective who yeah psychology then town thing so if that is the case achan ku ye jam le bro nok ko bi mi bi kan nok bi mi be kan nok bi ro nok e kene ye nyu do bay na de yen ka tawenam you can imagine the way she's thinking ebro nok I mean ke bi mi be kan nok ku ne ro ci ko wan ci mo ndor ci lo jupa ken mi kera the professor chen ke nok wan ala biro lo ini kan there's a possibility I'm trying to judge but then the reason why she's thinking about that is the fact that no chen poka ko munde she could be suffering psychologically with that stress or depression or trauma that no yena poka munde so na chi poka munde kudinganya is not willing to resolve this family dispute or family feud kam den getting de biro dor ku dubai kudinganya ya kwet then get can be yen trauma na yen trauma kala batak in her mind kele be mit be nok bi ka tara bloy ku negrot yen I cannot confirm this but I'm trying to analyze this from the standpoint of testimonies can take provided yen na man bol aye claim nu le yen ka cha wi be mit ba ka fol wi barero mit until be mit bi ka dit according to testimony de so ke yen ya aye dinga nya aye challenge le no yen chi le be pal mit acha ne na pale yen mit ina man bol ka man bol e mit ye ke gale cha ke no so mit the kid will be suffering from starvation they will be suffering from starvation so a bit mi the bi cha ke no kuti ga yelo le yen ti ga wo la deg mo wala ke la cham so given the psychology of somebody won't chi luo michila ya na chi mo inde che pol ku ye na ngor ke that grudges again mo inde there's a possibility ben ke chiri kana ta lo le yen kala ke mi ke mo inde ne ku chi mo inde ku chen pol kala mi da le ke luo ka sara mi da le ke luo ka sara ku luo ka sara that thing ale bandi nga nya ale banin ye credit right it is in le go ye credit but unless with the exception that no di nga nya is not lying but di nga nya ku ye yelo le din ku le mitki yes it's supposed me the deal me the more record ale big deal mandate lakini ko biya responsible man but before kiji di nga nya kiji ne kan loy ke ti nyan kaya man bol manuel ale bu ye benefit of that and by allowing her to see the psychiatric this psychiatric bela temnam bela ting if she's actually competent to foster care her own children if she's mentally okay if she's mentally conscious or sound then she can actually take the responsibility of parenting the children who became low raise yen who jemo in the ya support who can boga allegation who ne dinga nya en jam le yen elo le yen ting di wona manabul e ka chi miti ke miti chale chok en no who ke we ye ke la de mo that means if she's actually abusing the children then dinga nya ke mo nyinte de no mitke ade nam ra mitke be ke lo claim inge ki ke dinga nya lo fanda we mo njang dai if that is the case ke dinga nya bu ye benefit of that but kare dinga nya el bu yo ban dispute only if the psychiatric professional psychiatric be a lay mataj pa kubula tem na madil whether she's actually competent, whether she's actually substance abuse or alcoholic abuse, like the way Ding Anyang claims it, or whether it is true that she's actually abusing the kid. I'm not trying to defame her here. Don't care quite know. Anyway is to actually analyze the situation. Come on, many young kaiken. I think according to where I think because he actually abused the alcohol. But he might be suffering psychologically from the trauma that in which he think in area getting anya. Chidman chen jam video day. A yellow yen here you think then gran cheating anya. A chen nya if you open he more chatting too much anymore. When a cherry 1 minute 2018, a you think then getting anya. I can want you. Rake yen rote dede. But it can work is still lingering in her mind. There is no change trauma. Change psychological depression or stress. That's what actually allowed her to think about committing a crime. Like when you be miska bekano, kamwe miska bekano, ubero Chatting so can you criminal analysis and lawyer about a case can. So if that is the case of by, get miska after she kept the law. But a chukula kugula yen and miska kapke deny she could talk a lot. And miska kapke yen only to she and lama taipa, who kuyena test by the professional, competent, and certified psychiatric to Juba Hospital. So Juba Teaching Hospital, kunong professional psychiatric, when I tell ranun the mental problem, can affect what are no depression, what no stress that you, what are trauma, psychological trauma to here. That's where you have to analyze. Evaluate this person who just certify. Who can going to be going to big and yelling it in a big judge and yellow determine whether this person is actually competent. So now my sister, Ran Chidaman, bull, we are competent. To change a lower fast, but then medically, then gotta be a custody of her children. We become move. And that's when we have to come back. Buran Chiding Anyai, Bugia Ben discredit. We just challenge Gula Yin, I should be told a lower proof that no, ye na manable is not suffering from any trauma. So can I love it away? Whereby, if in Chico, so create we be a point of procedure. It's not the way when we react in mediating. We go judge one side, but we got to examine all the facts, all the testimonies presented so far by the two victims. We can analyze critically. And that's when you have to judge accordingly. Then talk a man, we deal na again Yankaya manable. Actually, we furnish. I can reason whatsoever. Libyan anyway. Even though I'm in Africa anyway, for in Africa, they don't give a damn. Whether if you're gonna simple case, you are under arrest, Kevin Bendom Padin. But unless if you cooperate, I think there's no need to find you anyway. I think the being Wi-Fi. I think the Tadin. So can you get around itself? Can be in that, be low, can I write? When I get in Yankaida manable, I can lose strip naked, I can talk our left, Louis for him. A can crime, come on, eleven year trouble. When I actually believe with yellow, you can more what you condemn. But I yoke the actually Gagran cheat the ding anya, the chading anya and loin. A shading anya and lay in that. Okay, shading anya and strip naked. But the police has to be held accountable for that. They can abuse, they are abusing the law. So can I took the book tolerate by in Penya Penjica Pit, because she kept the guy entertaining a chirica. Why in the good bag there, Monja let us not be biased in this case. Let us not rush to the conclusion that no so and so in a Kaltan. Now we keep back problem gonna back solve. We take door. Ka yuk di nganya kiri hoji. Yin da na kuilo lo di nganya da lo biya bit. Ya na ira na deal ku chen lo proof. That no claim that in jam we lay in ke lo bi mis bukan no. Pa bro no. Yen ke una le way according to criminal justice. You know, reading her mind. What she's thinking about is kind of like retaliation because you know what she thinks the area and the Nganya may not be willing. I can big blue compromise, big blue conceit, big blue lawyers, big problem, then big lawyer resolve, big blue door. Kuna ele think man in German yan can kulele ye ne kachin and she much betting anymore. That means it's in money with completely. That no way you can know future. Kuna chen future. Then way won't be in taxi in ran where an okay she be near me she ding anya in Paul to then mean the option you don't go jam deal ka yelo yen mi ke ka ngwen ka no bro no kerane is suffering from a psychological trauma anong depression to ke anong stress to ke so ka taw ke man bi en la ma sai fa ku bela tem bulo evaluate psychologically and we below evaluate kuna la yen yognu e kan kai the deal yen she suffering from this trauma then ke yen a little confined in a solitary confinement whereby the in yek den cho rehabilitation below yen a chan benam war na chinam na war ba den galas e kan check ko punishment because she is a victim herself yen a man is a victim of her own so kan wan ga yogan be she my sister Achol Madut ting one man the Chol Madut ne chen jam thin red one it showed then one loy ki ya kwan wol you know that was a good thing because the Chol is specialized in that area of professional counseling ka yoga career then low so that's where they come about but Kichania is when our ladies ka jamming then they try to inject their own emotional reaction which I understand we can one cha kwan wol chilwe video day which make a lot of sense you know like let's try to be fair sometime but that's why I was very critical because it's kind of like some women are trying to take advantage and then they want to turn it into a feminism campaign every time when something happens here again women some women here on Facebook they would want to project it as a issue that is against the woman but that's not the case like here and Bill look I'm for gender equality and I respect that. But the Tautan does not mean that you woman which is Michela, that means a woman can be a victim. You come to that conclusion prematurely. But I understand that women are very emotional. And even they can lead from the emotional perspective. Personalities can be but that's not the way men do things, right? So can more than we can't join them no, do not take the topic out of control, or take it out of context, be in work kind like feminism campaign. Go right to that conclusion. Go, men is the one responsible for this. Go work on them. So the nganya here, ka yo ka word look on them. Let me condemn him. The banding nganya I condemn him. Yin brother ding nganya ula video ko ula yin thing. Ke support below will. It's support bele ma sai fa. Bale ko ken nyan kan ko le ma sai fa. Bu ko na lo test na yi deal e jam bi mit ku kan no ku bro no ku lu threaten that ke ken ke be dian yes ken ke le normal they are going to Sudan you know I can name that power on talk to be honest and I can sympathize with our sister a man bull because no they are them that ke go feel helpless in Iran yo and then roar e ke da lar go lo use na Iran and well you try to use your manhood power bin ti go lo well kwa kane ke dio pyo we biran go pyo go the way go yognu ye na ya powerless iman jam den chen jam tijini wan it's quite emotional iman chen go jam go the o ran tinam ko ko maybe man de ki ko chen go man jam le tinam ko te de ko chen ke del believe anti ko chen tin to kana we paran ke guna le we mon jang nan dai after book I can book a ping to I can ya man bo le really do they believe that nu nyanden ke victim kuna ko ken gi yidi nga nya do they believe nu yen bi nga nya no ngi wonang lu so a testimony second suppose book kon ping well so this is still an ongoing case we will continue to analyze it but man chu go ting Facebook wa lo di nga nya if you don't do this if the chine loñ again your career musical career is coming to an end just because you have done this against the woman you know I know feminists try to take advantage of this but that's not the way how we want to draw the conclusion because we don't know who is a ngande yitene ko ngantil wet at the same time kana ngor ki la ma kam it's a formula ma kam then we have to look at the conclusion but before ki la ma kam nam ken yan ken alebele to the psychiatric in the Juba teaching hospital because of him if he is actually mentally competent is he mentally conscious now he mentally competent and conscious then he can wear anti the dinga nyai fanan then he can live again is live wrong and live nullify who yen live yek custody of her children me can be lawyer for renting because move maybe dinga nyang could be wrong then when jam will okay eti ga yen well mi ke chokek la nok utike we ye kala riok ko mi ti chale chokek nok e kenen ke ogen ko ka buping ko ken gi nya to jela ko ken gi dinga nya e dinga nya yen we ga mdi ko kama na le ro dar mi le ka tito I mean I don't know achin men le jo chak to ko we but ten men te le jam ke men de ngwen ke ni ti je na de ke chok nok e kenen le buping ken ni je dil at the same time there's no proof whether nyan can like the way ding anya and claim will lay in yadeg mao achira been proof too anyway consuming alcohol does not mean in a drug in alcoholic addict until when you see somebody always abuse the substance in most cases you know so we cannot judge her that way as well so nyan kaida man alubu no alubu respect too and a bit of more around it, it's a big deal. I believe that more too. But I can't get you judge. Provide that you drink responsibly, it's not a big deal. So maybe the Nganya is using that, it can learn in the fame, nobody can verify it. But we are not trying to hold our sister man accountable. Specifically is to come and judge her based on K. Is it true? That nu ke jam le mi di nga nya be kanok mi ke be kanok ni na man kuna ke mi ke nok ke jam bro nok ke chi ko wana lo re Juba tek dang ro lo so kene ke a prevention of the crime prevention of the homicide can ti ro lo in ke chi ke maybe e ke na le baran chi di nga nya le be yen credit ko ken they have a right big mi ke protect government of South Sudan too when the police have the right to protect those innocent kids from being killed or being murdered by their mother. Kamani ya man kaman ku yelo claim le bro no elo nang ne boli dikane chan bran ne suicidal ku tiran ku tiran wel ka che dole ran ka bitaw under watch but ene che bu pol ku jere ba akeke le bu ene ran get taken into the police custody ku bitaw in a solitary confinement whereby then now went through credential medical rehabilitation beloy rehabilitated achan bi de bu kien binam war ku be psychological stress thin trauma ku jela depression butok na you talk go baden kala je loin back to the society etena bi jongi jinu abi jo ben nyoko temi entani by the psychiatrist because there is some technique we use medically to evaluate and assess your health mental health una chen yognu ke competent and conscious to go back to the society kala bi lo release that nu ran kene abi accept the way ka be protect chirot binok ku chiran that face bitaw na amwe. These are the process that support be roll by. This is how we need to judge things. It's not the way we have to rumble in the social media or we start blaming so and so. That's not the way how we have to do stuff. So could you never way I didn't come live here to come and judge against Ranchit Fanan Dinganyai or to judge against Ranchit, our sister man. But sister man, to book and your go baden, it could be medical psychiatric. Would you like judge the competent judge when we then be in here baden? And they could be determined can. Whether she's actually mentally drained. If she's mentally drained, the psychiatry gonna be it's not us. It's not we, the activists on the social media. It's not you out there who can just hear something being said against her. We don't want to say that. And we don't want to defame our sister, Amanbol, in that way. And we don't want to run, jump to the conclusion against our brother, Dinganyai, that he's the one doing this against this woman because of this. Dinganyai have a right to protect like he claimed. I think actually anyway, they have been apart for 2 years in their relationship. But this woman keep coming back to me to become well claim. Go down to Jurbai. Ujaya yen will take the meat because yen budget. Like in a Dinganya, I will meet the chocolate and knock. Meet the chocolate and knock by. Una not chocolate. Got it right because go chin. That's why I can meet and go by. Okay, you don't get Jalabanka, but you don't know TK will no, but they'll be a champ. So if that is the case of by I don't eat the meat of the cake. Yen I don't know because I can't verify this. But until Bupping a quite yin yato, Ujala quite eating anya. Because I believe in quite a secret people lie. They cannot lie. Maybe the Nganya is making up allegation. I don't know. I cannot verify until further investigation. The same thing way a man too, where I cannot condemn too, because until I verify more information, but lower cross examine. So once you collect more data or more information about these criminal cases, that's when you have to cross examine. And then after that, that's when you come to the conclusion. Well, that's whereby a prosecutor, any indictment in data will in ballot conclude it's about the fact that Nyan Kaida Anichola man does not deserve the Ben Fanes because she's a victim. She's a victim herself. Why is she a victim? She's a victim because she wants to kill herself, so she would be regarded as suicidal. According to she being anya claim thing. Second to that, now bullies have a right without into a custody. But actually be punished because he ain't a victim. There's a psychological trauma. That's the way we assume it, because the way GMT, I jam around the num trauma. Where trauma can be. To be trauma, they're punishing when they kid and Paul. And they have been apart for 2 years with each other in a relationship. I tell a year jam the fio. When I see you jam the fio, in mental trauma, mental stress, mental depression. When I tell Louis become chronic. So the way winning that thing, you tag on in the man in jam will any she be with the garage. That means the lawyer. Hey, Bruno. But then a chan Bruno got away. Hey, anyone then he and call a bit in Jilla kind of blow a chan with a heal from this trauma. It's a little bit that can work a Sarah. The cheat win them when they look claim you will meet no. Bruno. It can make a very easier deal be beating there and saying, I love you there, Louis. So, I take the deal of me because but at this point, we have not reached that conclusion yet. So, can it be police department be going to investigate? And let be for security being to investigate until Ben enjoy you. But then, because your lawyer a man is supposed to tell in a solitary confinement. I can be the initial rehabilitation. After he and you are rehabilitated, then the psychiatrist will determine whether she can actually be released back to the society. To ensure that she's going to be safe, which is to be lawyer, which means that she can be lawyer, Michel. You see? Achana shena end of the world. There are so many single women out there. They can still get a man. Kala big la rere deal, bra la re. Achana kala bira de no by. To ba lo condemn to police station. Actually no need to tade ni na man wrong. If now according to her own testimony, now they can thought Louis fit naked, it can I condemn it too. The strongest term possible, I condemn the police station for beating her and for stripping her naked. That is totally unacceptable, and it was not even affected. Because our sister, Amanubul, she is a victim herself. She needs to be put in a solitary confinement. She's not just like any other regular criminal because she has not done any crime yet. But the fact that she was actually envisioning committing suicide or committing homicide against her own children, that is what she has to be put into a rehabilitation ward. Now we be entitled. But I can now heal from this because she's suffering from a trauma. That's the way I understand. So I think she's just envisioning a jam around the trauma, you know. So what you got to do as the police is to take her into a custody and put her in a solitary confinement, where she can actually get rehabilitated. That's what I can recommend here. So where work activism jam out there, please, let's respect both sides and let us not try to condemn so and so. Dinganya in this case is trying to protect a kid, and Dinganya is also fearing for his own life because there's a possibility now about committing a suicide. When somebody says you want to commit a suicide, there could be so many ways of how she's going to commit a suicide. Either he kill you, or that's what suicide means. Yeah. Somebody not going to quit again is in Iran. Actually, the Bilatio, kitchen going below in Iran. So I think Anya himself, watch out, because he could become a victim himself, let alone his own children. Now, that does not guarantee you, that does not give you a green light. Report. Yes, you have a right, Bangalore report, but I should get the deal of that. I think the 30 years. Nyankaya man, a Kobatao in a solitary confinement where she has to go undergo the rehabilitation process. That's the only thing I can recommend, because yen and ngam trauma. With trauma can ngolu and cause. Because they break up a divorce. So can I tell a yig jam pio? I yogno in future because she might be in the iron more. Okay, yogno dinganya and a mundano yeti. But then Jala Michela can have individual way of thinking. Okay, you will but yogno yen a child useless. I think that she doesn't make any sense in this world to live. So a word takunu a liberal one now. When I get a knock in a teaching on the yoki. Kurata out there, and I felt for everything one, gonna be your commander. So, Kokor, we quite one, the Yan Kai and Chola man, the bag Luga Bang and Duna Bagdom, gave you credential rehabilitation. Yen a tail in credential solitary confinement, will be rehabilitation program go with Galoy, Matefa. So, can I be professional psychiatric in the Juba hospital in a bellow weekend? So, in the good way, that's what he's supposed to be doing. In case we back in a way we back and pointing. Yin ding anyai, yen with your way quite a family dun, a chap we back out of men bear and she our sister man, the gal that Ulule in Nachen strip naked a deal can condemn a sheep yet. So in get the ban call can, which a college, but I yogono dunge go right to the conclusion. Why low because no man has the power, man has abused the woman. You know, we don't have to write that conclusion. But yes, now I'm going back on team because you and I will away one young, like a family down and enter three. One way for being pointing, Ian and a man, who they won't be a door the Monday. Bureau work. can be one way of healing her too, because then she's actually suffering from that trauma. Can break the relationship. Maybe Tan and Tintin, maybe Dinganya is not willing because Dinganya is polygamist. Polygamy there and it's diage. When I see diage, maybe it's another tactic wouldn't have been eliminated could be with them then. Anyway, and he's actually interacting with a lot of beautiful women. So if that is the case, another tactic wouldn't have been knock out, but their favorite young be. You know. So by by one young die, near Naderan, who will bend Joaquin, Jambini. I yoke a allow. I yoke the studio allow. Well, I get Javan thing could die. Yen and Tija reach to the conclusion cannot take side. But a call book affair. Why you know one young die, don't get die when you but Naira and call ya join the studio. The in love a bed. Why can we be joined to the new cake one one till alive? A chat, you don't need to take side. So that's why one can die showed quite you was actually being fair. You know, she was being fair and just. But then it's always on the end and he die. Other video okay you can lower previously. She claimed that no yen ben cage Facebook kulera and all being anyai, the lower condemn. When you get think she diage she will need a kai on you got Facebook. But that's why I keep telling people, you know what, you ladies, every time now get waiting, then you guys you don't hesitate, back work on collude that no a problem. What was behind that? No, I'm not a masculine. I'm not a masculinist. Like, and I'm not a man that stand for the right of the man, but I can stand for anybody's right, whether you are a woman or whether you are a man, whether you are a female or a male. We have to be realistic in judging the situation according to how it happened. But to most of the Junubin getting Facebook, they always like to jump to that conclusion. For instance, in the case of one lawyer, one ban forward, telling about the sexual harassment, sexual molestation, all this stuff have been discussed. And the way I see the drama on the Facebook, it was so horrible to me. I was shocked. Because that almost caused a civil war between the man and the woman. It's very funny, guys. It's funny. It's funny. Yeah. I know, and I understand. One month when a chol maduri. You know what we too. We tend to judge things from the emotional perspective, which is actually typical of KKDR deal. So now tell we in scientific research, then we can actually reach the conclusion that women or female tend to reach to the conclusion based on their emotion, right? So it can become a real fact a deal, because based on your statistic, a lot of women tend to react to issues that against women from their emotional perspective, other than judging the facts according to what happened, what transpired between the two victims or whoever was involved in the case. So when you on our Facebook, we are on a live video non situation chapping, the incident if you will. But she was the wrong victim anyway. Hey, I yoke yan can yan tia. Like in a Simon Jason Teoria, a cop in yan can be ben they were chen and jai. Hey, yan tin be with your family be when yan a top target, when men not target, pay inside. Then get your banlo in you on guy, well, Facebook, go lie, this is the way when Louis they are abused, blah blah. Then the whole thing catch fire. Then they sort of get carried away by emotional reaction. man chi go ko right ko ku dare ngot lo rat in the beginning and chi kon be investigated ku be pek ka ja ben di mi because examination ja ben lo kam de ngo chiro lo be dap then we have to start the case first prior to reaching the conclusion prematurely exactly in ga chiro lo kam de ni di nga nyai ga man so kwa we shi nyan ka ya kwa chen video lo wa ko it make a lot of sense to me because he was trying to be impartial ko be neutral China neutral that means they have some right even to know in conclusion on ko go lo don't try to be judgmental yeah chuma and be look at very critical but it depends on how I look at the facts then I have to reach my conclusion after verifying all the concrete evidence and facts then my own conclusion ben lo so okay yogan we know let's try to collect enough information prior to jumping to the conclusion that so and so is wrong and that so and so is to be condemned you know yeah so when I woke up a day ago one be video gonna be in bay viral the first video can ping a video dating can but one ping in real I didn't knew that no that was being a that didn't talk him diction I thought it being a that faith because in case I didn't go thing that something I thought it was just a different being a that faith then I came to conclusion that I came to learn that being a so then all of the sudden women flock to the media and then they start bombarding being anyai na chicken loy musical career over here and all that okay jadi dia kage big fan kunale vanle miak to the conclusion that no ding anyai na de in ke kaltan in this case can react to music even the damage has already been done and I don't think some of the women that are already determined because there are some that don't want even to listen to the real facts you know they just jump to that conclusion that no dinganya is done yeah right kala kira ambe ping music adinganya I manegele go ti ayo ko ne ko wana again tinge du nyin go Facebook because he's trying to preserve his own reputation too because he care about his career I even go du wan le dinganya don't come to Facebook no he has the right to come to Facebook because he not fan he has to be answerable to his fan broadband explain so jam de chin kare tati ke which book yalo na ben jam does not mean we have reached the conclusion that no well being anya is true get all we have to fact check them we have to validate or verify their testimonies kimanu chan ke queen testimony de kujila testimony de da man you know so ka ke which book a song we by kwa we ga ke cho li na de ran with ben join in the studio you know ben ayuk jam de to ten ku na de ran de objection ko well inde nam hak ben studio ben join ben condemn well no Billy look this is not the way it's supposed to be then could have a thing so we don go ping so ga ka ting there's some people when the moral busa loy ku kanya ke bi ko ja back up kran ki ben to that conclusion you see so ayuk in ke ta okan and in there and go ben studio it be like don't shy away click that link join me while I'm doing that let me play the Nganya song the Nganya ye ko borot ni chok fanya pet akwira lo career de area di chanen women na jere women movement is actually taking control of South Sudan they have a very strong force yin the Nganya ke big fan of yours adia ke big fan dia ke musician ke support ke ga non manpower manpower so we brana careful of it when dealing with women
It's Dinganya again in the Verbal Studio. We can do better.
Join me, please.
Do my young, do my young way. Yeah, Malay by Colorat Piamatil, Quayong more, Quayong Yanku, you by the Bonchinian, a Jabe Gamba Chugong Gangwaya. It's just the music, I was triple G. Yet you don't say that, yet you don't say that. To your own God, Lord, in a G, Latia, in a G, Dotania, Jolly Book to the map. Arusa kela gang gang, arusa kela gang gang. You go back to your gang gang. In a jack where they find you, in a jack where they can meet them, in a jack where they meet, in a jack where they meet them, in a jack where they can meet them, in a jack where they meet. You do them yard, you like a yak, you do them man, you like a yak, you do them good, you like a yak. Kulaya magur na dera kalwen na bayo kabay mo ya je piye kele kuya ya du mi yalle ora je piye kele kuya ya du mi yalle mama je ngapat ni baba je ngapat ina ya wede panda ina ya wede tili ina ya wede muni iwa ma je ngapat ina ka je ngapat ina ya wede panda ina ya wede tili ina ya wede muni ya ki do ni sera ya ki ga sera you young god loy ina ki nyai la ya ina ki do ya yo le do tu da ma arusa kela gang gang arusa kela gang gang gumba moje gang gang ina ya wede banda ina ya wede timi ina ya wede muni ina ya wede minga ina ya wede timi ina ya wede muni Balga dial ko bilbel man mo anya dinga shop aya shop Muktan ganye arare yin na lo du tradwe du abenti Muktan ganye arare yin na lo du tradwe du abenti Kichin pura kayana mepo Habibi kichin pomye kayana mepo baywan Kichin pura kayana mepo Habibi kichin pomyat kayana mitko baywan yana mang yepo wamiwan yang baye baywan wan mat yata wamiwan yang baye baywan yang baye yata wamiwan wagmoy mang yata wamiwan kichin jam kuchati kayana mitko Jinjam utani yake jam kayana wade ya mitko Jinjam utaki kayana mitko Jinjam utani yake kayana
Please join me in the studio. you want to join me in the studio. I'm trying to play the last song, and that will be the end of it. I know some of you tried to join me now. I saw you probably join me. I want to see anybody that is critical on my own analysis. I was just coming here to come and analyze the criminal cases of Daniel Dinganjai versus Ahmad Manure. So I'm done with the criminal analysis between Dinganjai versus Ahmad All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Billy Luke. I think this comes to the end of my program tonight, or this morning, this evening, wherever you may be around the world. The criminal analysis pertaining to the case of Daniel Dinganjai versus Ahmad Manure was all about giving them time so that we can continue to get more information before we actually reach the conclusion. So Brother Dinganjai have a right to protect his own children from possible homicide. He has a right to protect himself from possible homicide himself, because he could actually end up a victim if his ex-wife claimed to commit suicide. That means when somebody talk about committing suicide, that does not mean he or she is going to kill herself. She may end up killing someone, you know. So if I tell you I'm going to commit a suicide, I may do it with no beladabia, you know. And in addition to that, you know, I give our sister Aman Bol the constitutional right to be put in a solitary confinement where she can actually go through rehabilitation. We need her to see the professional psychiatrist in the Juba Teaching Hospital so that she can be able to get tested for her mental health. Because if she actually alleged to be or premeditating about committing a suicide or about killing children, then she needs to be seen by the doctor. And this special doctor is whom we refer to as psychiatric. So psychiatric need to examine her, need to evaluate her mentally, and if she's found to be mentally conscious, mentally competent, then she will be given the custody of her children. And she will be given the authorization to take her and to upbring her own children. But if she's found out to be mentally incompetent, and mentally unconscious, then the psychiatric will actually issue a recommendation, a formal recommendation to the doctor, to the judge. And then the judge will actually authorize the prison to actually release her from the solitary confinement. And then she can actually be released into the society, whereby she will be deemed as mentally stable and mentally conscious, mentally competent to be back to the society, so that she cannot actually do harm to herself or do harm to the others. And in this case, to her children and to her ex-husband, Ding Anyai. In addition to that, I also condemn the beating of our sister Man, and I also condemn the fact that she claimed to have been stripped naked in the public or in front of the police. That is unacceptable, and we should all condemn that. So I'm here to actually demand for her own release. She needs to be released from the prison, but she needs to be put in a solitary confinement. I don't know if prison in South Sudan do actually have that accommodation for solitary confinement, because I don't see her yet as a criminal. She's just a victim. She's a victim of psychological trauma. That's why she's actually thinking about committing a suicide. And somebody talking about committing a suicide may mean she's actually contemplating committing a crime. It could be a crime against someone. You understand, when a terrorist acts, do something bad, it is a kind of suicide. And committing a suicide does not mean you are actually going to kill yourself. You could be harmful to the society. So some people could end up a victim. It could be her husband, it could be her children, it could be anybody in the family, it could be anybody on the street. Just because you just want to make sure she's going to die for a purpose, that means kill others so that you can also die as well, and that's what we don't want to see happen. So she could actually be deemed as dangerous to the society. So that's why the law enforcement have to take her into the custody, but she does not deserve to be beaten because she's a victim. So she needs to be put in a solitary confinement, and then she needs to see the medical doctor that is actually going to administer a rehabilitation program. So she has to go, while in the solitary confinement, she will undergo rehabilitation. So she has to do some rehabilitation program. So once that is done, she will be taken back to the psychiatric doctor. Then the psychiatrist will actually give a final recommendation, final evaluation about her mental health. Then she can actually be released. And when she's released back to the community or to the society, that's when the doctor will determine whether she will be competent or conscious to actually bring up her own children. So in this case, there is a chance the judge is going to authorize whether she's going to take a full custody of her children. So okay, tenel bi en yen mitke. Bijola ba ka mitke, je mitke je ke glamu. Ke ten garanti di nganyai. Ka chi no musulie ben belele yen etingi ka tawle kwa tawle bitik ba jango. Because she dicto she recommended, she judge she will recommend according to the law. Because the judge is the one to determine that this person is served, not to be released back to the community or society. But then she judge below it, because judge is just a longer implement. But the doctor have to look into the mental problem. Talk around. Why let us not judge our sister that she is not mentally competent until the doctor in convene with that conclusion. And who is that doctor? That doctor is KN psychiatry. That is a specialist in that field. So the psychological trauma, which allows stress or depression, talking in a benti. So these are the stuff that can support book jam. It's not about when you jump to the conclusion and you want to take the raw evidence or the raw testimony, take it, present it, then you want to jump to the conclusion. That's not how things are done. There are some professional procedures we have to follow. And these professional procedures are, she need to be put into a solitary confinement. After being put in a solitary confinement, she will be made to see a specialist in the rehabilitation program. While undergoing rehabilitation program, she will then be transferred to the psychiatric. And then the psychiatric will be able to evaluate a mental status. And then the psychiatric will be the one to make the conclusion. Psychiatric will eventually make a recommendation to the judge. And then the judge will go and release the document and authorize the law enforcement or the prosecutor to release it. And if the psychiatric does not approve this or recommend her release, then the judge will not do anything. That means she will remain in detention. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, there's a possibility she cannot be released from the prison. Let me say this. I'm not saying she has to be treated like a criminal. She has to be treated as a victim. And she has to be treated as a victim. Ukako in a solitary confinement. That means abataw unde to. Unde be na jam nam den wo dun te ka jun te king the mental, because I can crime below here. I can crime below here. And he's innocent up to this point. Manuel is not a criminal yet. But he was actually premeditating committing a crime. And committing a crime is when she claims she wants to commit suicide, according to the testimony of Ran Jiden and Dinganyai. So if that was the case why she was being reported to the police, there's no point whatsoever to beat her up because she's a victim. There's no point to strip her naked. I condemn that. So Kokobro by Kebinyan Kaida, Kebita in a solitary confinement, Uchokia Loy rehabilitation program. After the rehabilitation program, Kenkaloi, Kalas Kabi psychiatric of the Jatin, psychiatric of the Jochan, of the team. Are there certain techniques you use? Actually, in them machine. There are some techniques. You can be given a questionnaire that you have to answer. But if you fail to, to score according to a recommended percentage for that test, then you fail the test. That means you are not still meeting the requirement or that expectation of Rante, who is mentally conscious or mentally competent. So, which a test which a lawyer fail by then the psychiatric actually recommendation law to the judge. Who judge and the conclusion your ban law, who jail there, jail who jail prosecutor, who prosecutor and a lawyer released from the law enforcement. So that way, a ben more in a detention. Where detention gonna get detention a criminal. Get detention a victim. Because she's a threat, not only is she a threat to herself, she can be a threat to the society. Because the Iran is for instance, she man Nyan Kaidan on Chikon Loy Nyan Monjankan, it's all Mary J. And she Mary J. boyfriend, it was something that she premeditated. And that was an example of a suicide attempt. Because she knew she's actually going to kill her boyfriend. Because when you do something intentionally, in criminal justice, when you do something intentionally, you are likely to be killed with a death penalty. Death penalty will be enough. I think that will be because you did it intentionally. But imagine life prison. Can I town life prison? Kera only she crime can akilo intentionally. But here are not Calabin town under life in prison. But a law in intentionally. You'll have them enough right away. Even there's no need that to waste time like him and around one. There was no fun whatsoever. The benefits are it's in justification. Kuna loy, kechi loy kukui, kechi loy by accident, ke loy intentional. Therefore, why are you wasting the government resources? Why are you wasting the national resources? Baga kamajiri mchiri kakapike ga sham sijin. Rather brand can we can kum death penalty right away. It's in time low waste. Which all okay. Can take a low intentionally. But here and you'll fall na and low crime intentionally. But then into yoga in the psychological problem. Can be dicto, when be defend attorney or defend lawyer, benin defend, you know what? Can lawyer can intentional because he ain't namria. So before big judge when that yin that in the lama take pa, be the them. That no can lawyer can he lawyer with the intention. When I yin yogunu yin the mentally conscious, then can be wrong. Then mean get accused. So can you defend lawyer, lawyer cross examine with the medical record. Right. I think there was no 5 euro record in you that no ngega criminal. Well, ngega icon lawyer charges because the new yin and mental problem. Yes, now you give the 5 euro record that no you were mentally incompetent. Then yes, I'll be pardon. Being you ran can de musmali wena. So we in kakaloiti. Yes, he's suffering from some mental disorder. So so I'm trying to analyze in the case of our sister Man. Hey, she could be suffering from psychological trauma. So that's what I can say. Why actually okay, her husband is lying. Okay, there's no proof that he was lying. Okay, so that's why we have to wait anyway. I cannot say he was lying, and I cannot say his testimony was right. But until we do further cross-examination by soliciting more investigation have to come forward. For instance, we want to see the families of both sides issuing their own testimonies too. I don't know whether they will be driven by the conflict of interest, but they have to be honest. But in the case in theater alone, you got to swear when you are being asked for information, you don't lie. Because there is going to be a lie detector to prove you wrong or to disapprove you. So you got to make sure you are being honest and you will be responsible for whatever you're going to say. Don't issue a wrong information, which you are not going to defend when it comes to legal argument. So that's also considered a perjury. Perjury in criminal justice is also a crime. So if you want to be a part of the investigation and you want to come forward and present some factual testimonies, then make sure you are confident of what you are going to say and you are going to take oaths. You are going to swear that you are not lying, right? And you know that when the prosecutor is going to discover that you are lying, then you put yourself in trouble. That is considered a perjury in criminal justice. So you better be careful too. When you come forward, you come forward with the facts, but don't come forward with the lies. Because those lies of yourself will put you in trouble. So understand the system. Don't mess with the system. I don't know if the way they do stuff in Africa, I don't know. But here I'm talking from the perspective of the Western world. I know in Africa they can corrupt it. They don't have the techniques available. They don't have this strong institution of the judiciary whereby all these legal procedures have to be followed. So this is very complex. People just assume this is okay, like the way South Sudanese just jump to the conclusion. It's like last time when we were talking about the case of the three children being murdered in their house. We didn't just rush to the conclusion, but we were actually talking about the person of interest. Person of interest are the people that are suspect to be behind this. People that were considered to be issuing some numerous threats against that family. And that is how it ended up. All of them were actually arrested. But when the law enforcement come to the conclusion, then they came to conclude that one person was responsible for this crime. The rest were actually being released. Why? Because they were seen as person of interest. And suspecting you, consider you as suspect, does not actually mean you are the criminal. Or people have come to the conclusion to consider you as a criminal. Until when you are prosecuted, then you appear before the judge, and then the judge will actually come to the conclusion, depending on the plaintiff and defendant, respective lawyers, legal defense. So en ge tau kan we cha kamo ko ko ndai ke jaman tin e ke bita dinga nyai ku jela yen nyan kaya man bol we bug nom ge but let's give them time. So nyan kaya aman ako bita in solitary confinement ako bita on de to on kana bi la jam nam ko unte ke to fi gide ni chole rehabilitation hub ti masaifa to town in that hub and if you be in town keep the town in the. That's what I can recommend. The dun we ko law enforcement to pan the juba. So a man is supposed blame masaifa we town rehabilitation ward ke kind of solitary confinement can be con cha wa na mo be trauma den in to ke yen kan be jale na can chi ba threat to the society, bad threat to meet, bad threat to munde. But then before that is done, kapet become them na deal, become them na de yen she's actually suffering from a mental depression. Then can have been your town in solitary confinement who jail through rehabilitation program. After rehabilitation program, chen ka thoso kala ka jabe dok psychiatric na be jabe la them nam tan. Chen njola them nu ache tai sa chi lo fast. Kalas ye na nan wa na ji nan wa kala ta jo Dubai na ji jo Dubai ke this is when the bidito and jo be judge when ran ma kama ben ja ben determine whether the jo yen meet in a better recommendation ja ben lo yen jak lo lead is now good. She a decent person, is a morally fit citizen to go back to the society, get an be custody of her children mi tel be la bai become mu. That mean ke mi mane di nga nya elo le mi ke chok no ka chin ko un bien be die ko ka chin ko ben be lo kra until ka yo ka mi te be ka ngila mu, you know, ka chin ko ben mi be la chan ne chok e wala bi ke be la lo threat wala bi be jam ke ran na rot because yena be nam war. See ke we wona an ting tin now we will solve in a natural way e ke manon bi parent ken ke ya man ko parent ken gi di nga nya bu ko nyu pin ku dil ke dor biro dwok ke one way that be nyan ken be na heal from that depression ke do. I'm just assuming hypothetically I'm not sure whether she's actually suffering from trauma, but I'm trying to judge her based on testimony then ti luile e di nga nya e luile that no e luile yen kanong en jam bro no ko kalwel be mit kan no. So na bro no but biro no gira then me na che bro no to you can commit a crime against someone who can get na kiro no ka like what Mary J did. You know, she did it intentionally. He and Mary J. That's why she ended up stepping her boyfriend even though instantly. Then she ended up being arrested. Je buy emotional after chen boyfriend no money ja le fan and loy wala yengo. I don't know what have been done to her anyway because people didn't talk much about it. I have seen it, people making drama. But that was obvious anyway. She did it intentionally. Because something she premeditated. That's why she came with a knife, right? You cannot carry a knife with you unless you have a bad intention. Or unless you want to say, this is my weapon of self-defense. But from whom? You know? A criminal, yes, you have a right to self-defense, but why you end up stabbing your boyfriend? That was very horrible. Very, very sad. The way on Channel T. The way Channel go waiting on Facebook, we go shocked. You know? Because she actually did it intentionally. So she deserved the initial death penalty without even a hesitation. People like that, suppose they got no right away. The same thing, when one professor. I think they can detain in the city. Can get resources to buy and yak exactly because Jal Champa can cham the get attack from the citizen. Why are you wasting people's budget here, with the criminal? You know. The case of brother Dinganyai, Genyan Kaya man, a very simple case, the way I look at it. So the fact that Yen Ben viral on Facebook because Ranchol Dinganyai is a celebrity. You know, being a celebrity, you should expect people to talk about it. in public, you know, because he's a very well-known guy. So that's why it came into his spotlight. So you could take time. Big Michela can be girl. Qua in the German thing by which I college. So my message to all of you out there, my sisters and brothers, let us not try to judge this from the perspective of feminism or from the perspective of masculinity. This is not what it is supposed to be. We need to be judgmental based on facts, based on realistic, concrete evidence presented by the both sides. And that's when we have to reach the conclusion. So let us try to be careful instead of jumping to the conclusion that so and so is wrong, like the way a lot of people make drama on Facebook. Thank you. You don't handle this case properly, then your musical career is coming to an end. You've been given one. Ladies are not ready today. The struggle is good.
Victoria Wengward, Diana B. What happy? In a Kenyan Wengward, Yaliruko, Yatik Mama, Yaliruko, Yaliruko, Yatik Mama, Yaliruko.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you for being here with me and share with me on this program tonight. Thank you very much. Have a good day. This brings us to the end of our program. See you next time. Have a good day. Bye.